Martial law is now in effect for the southern third of the Philippines amid deadly clashes between government forces and ISIS-linked terrorists. President Duterte implemented the action on the island of Mindanao after violence broke out in the city of Marawi. ISIS-linked terrorists beheaded a police chief, burnt down buildings, and seized a Catholic priest and parishioners. Now, soldiers were sent to neutralize the head of the Abu Sayyaf terrorist group, but they failed. 13 terrorists and 7 soldiers have been killed. Duterte hopes to stop the ISIS-linked terrorists from gaining a foothold in the Christian-majority country. All right, let's now bring in Sanho Tree, a fellow at the Institute for Policy Studies in Washington. Sanho, thanks for joining us. And as we just said, ISIS-linked terrorists are on the attack, beheading police chiefs, burning buildings. How big is the ISIS threat in the Philippines?
Well, some of the groups have sworn allegiance to ISIS, but in terms of operational contacts and training and that sort of thing, my understanding is there's not a lot of direct connection right there. But it's the declaration of martial law, however, is very, very troubling, given that this is a president who has had an abysmal human rights record. He has already killed more Filipinos in 11 months of power than the previous dictator Ferdinand Marcos killed in a decade of under martial law. So this is a very troubling development.
So you don't think that...
And he's thinking of spreading it to the rest of the country.
You don't think that martial law is merited in this case?
You know, if this were a normal head of state, that would be one thing. But this is a president who talks about beheading people who oppose him, and you know, and all sorts of things he says out loud that would shock even supporters of, say, President Trump. I mean, he says things out loud that no head of state ever says. So it's very troubling that he doesn't respect, you know, due process and checks and balances.
Well, Duterte cut short his trip to Moscow. He flew back to Manila, and like you said, he's threatened to impose martial law nationwide. How are the people reacting to this? Does he have support from them?
He is rather popular, much more so than, say, President Trump in the United States. They have a lot of similarities in their style, of course, but he does have, you know, popular support, but it's for a number of reasons, and it's not necessarily because of one issue or another, not necessarily because of his drug war, which is starting to lose support, or other aspects. He's got other somewhat progressive agenda items in terms of going after extractive industries, the mining industry, you know, corruption, that sort of thing. So it's a mix of issues that makes him popular, not any particular thing.
And of course, as we said, he's responding to those threats and attacks by ISIS. Why is ISIS targeting the Philippines?
There are significant Muslim populations in the South. And so there's been, you know, lots of insurgencies historically in the Philippines as well. But I think the root causes of so much of these problems are, you know, rooted in issues of poverty, despair, and alienation. And using more repression isn't necessarily going to deal with any of the root causes that are, you know, causing these things to happen. It's similar to his drug war. In many ways, he has a love affair with authoritarian power, but in a way where he mobilizes people using scapegoating tactics. I describe what's going on in the Philippines very much as sort of a pogrom of the 21st century, where you have many years of dehumanization of certain groups, in this case drug users, or Muslims, and then projecting a whole host of social issues and a cornucopia of social problems that are really the problems of you know, of poverty and inequality and all these other structural problems, and say, if we just got rid of this one group, everything would be fine again. And I think it's a very simplistic way of approaching a very complex problem.
It is indeed. But back to ISIS, what is their grievance? What is their objective in their Philippines?
I think they're looking for support anywhere they can find it. And so you have people declaring allegiance to ISIS without ever having met anyone from ISIS or been in contact. So it's hard to say exactly what the operational contacts are here. And so it's a way of taking you know, again, a very complex problem and giving it a very simple solution, and presenting you know, causes that are quite you know, very simplified.
All right, Sanho Tree, thank you so much for your insight.